Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Coulter, and I am the director of the Pound Ridge Library. I
Oh,
want to welcome you all to Culture
I
Quest,
never
an
said that.
online series showcasing artists from all fields, including writing, visual arts, and performing arts. Each session spans 45 minutes, consisting of a presentation followed by an interactive Q&A session. The discussions will revolve around the central theme of how I got
Look at her. I think she was.
here. Tonight, we are thrilled to feature authors Rebecca Johnson and Bex O'Brian, co-founders of Dorothy Parker's Ashes, an online magazine publishing fresh, contemporary first-person essays and art by women and gender non-conforming writers. Rebecca Johnson is both a writer and editor whose work has appeared in various publications, including Elle, Mademoiselle, The New Yorker, The New York Times, The New York Times Magazine, Salon, and Vogue, where she was a contributing editor from 1999 to 2020. She is the author of the novel And Sometimes Why. She lives in Brooklyn and South Salem, New York, with her husband and two children. Bex O'Brian lives mostly in France with her husband and their dog. She's been scribbling around on various projects for the better part of 30 years and made very little money as a result. Thus conditioned, she wrote that, by the way, not me. Thus conditioned, she is thrilled with the advent of Dorothy Parker's Ashes. She is the author of the novels under Bex Brian, Promiscuous Unbound and Radius. At present, she is working on a new novel entitled Ask Lover. We welcome you both and thank you so much for joining us this evening. If all of the participants could please keep themselves muted until we switch over to the Q&A session of the presentation tonight. The presenters recommend and encourage you all to unmute yourselves and ask questions and on the screen and everything. But if you're more comfortable using the chat, please feel free to do that, and I'll read the questions out loud to our presenters. So without further ado, welcome again. Thank you for joining us, and take it away.
Rebecca, do you want to go first? First of all, I'd like to say thank you for being here, and it's lovely to finally see some of your faces after, editing you and hearing you and reading your stuff on DPA. So, it's thrilling for us. And also it's late for me because I'm in France, so it is midnight. So if I conk out, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, the bad thing with people being muted is you can't hear them titter at your jokes.
They're not finding us funny.
So I will laugh at your jokes, Bex. Don't worry.
All right.
Okay. I listening to the introduction, I kind of had to chuckle because as she was listing all the magazines that I had written for, I thought closed, canceled, closed. Basically magazines are kind of dead. And that's really kind of one of the reasons that Dorothy Parker's Ashes came to be, because as somebody who's, spent her career in magazines, I looked around at a certain point and I was like, wow, there's nowhere left to publish. I don't need to tell you guys about this thing called the internet, which kind of destroyed the magazine publishing industry, but I found that it left a very big hole for the kind of writing that's near and dear to my heart, which is the first person essay. Subsequently, I have learned that there are actually many online magazines, but I didn't know that when Bex came over for dinner one night in the middle of the epidemic and said, hey, let's start a magazine. Which I'm going to now toss to you, Bex, because I think you can bring that evening alive.
No, it was, well, I'd like to roll back a little further back because they say the agenda of this thing is where we come from. And I have to say that my mother, who was a writer as well, moved to New York when she was 50 and made a really good career for herself in magazines, the Village Voice, GQ. She was a single mother raising my much younger sister. And everything breaks my heart these days because that could never happen. And if you're a late starter in life, which I am for myriad reasons I won't go into, by the time I woke up to what the possibilities and what I wanted to do, I looked around and I went, shit, everything that my mother was able to do is now no longer available to me. And I just, it was kind of depressing, truth be told. And then a pandemic hit. So you're sort of sitting there stewing in your own, sense of failure and lack of opportunity. And Rebecca and I have been friends for.
I want to just interject here before you move on too far from the mention of your mother, because Bex's mother was actually the Irma Bombeck of Canada in the 1970s. And I think that's important to know, because Bex spent her childhood being written about.
Yeah.
Basically, she was her mother's content. And I think, a lot of people are uncomfortable with, the first person essay is an extremely intrusive kind of, privacy breaking thing. But Bex has never had that problem because her mother always used her as content. Am I right?
You're right. And believe me, I did not come out well. I was not the adorable child that was.
No, because who would want to read about that?
I was the nightmare, and so yes, that was the case. And then my, yes, I've been written about pretty much my whole life. Now my present husband has written about me, so maybe I don't actually exist. Maybe I'm just the in everybody's imaginations, and I myself don't actually have any corporeal weight. But
I think I knocked you off your narrative. I'm so
yeah, what
sorry.
was my narrative? What was I
I'm
saying?
so sorry. I could tell.
No,
Like,
that's okay. Oh no, so then the pandemic hit, and
Yeah,
and
that's
Rebecca. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Rebecca and I have been friends. She actually edited my husband years back when you were at
7 days.
7 days, and she actually once took me out to lunch many, many years ago and said, "I'd like you to write for me." And she didn't know me and didn't know I'm very allergic to fish. So she took me to a fish restaurant. So all I could have was rice. We sat talking and we got along, and I always loved Rebecca's stuff, especially the stuff she did in Vogue. I always thought she had the best first person voice. I just loved her stuff. Anyhow, so it's the pandemic and we hadn't seen another human being in a year. And we were in Connecticut because my husband was doing a fellowship at Wesleyan. And finally I said, Rebecca, if we come down and we stay far away and we wear masks, we just see you and your husband.
That works on our case. It's just like, we're that personal with the
What's happening?
insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hearing voices. Am I becoming schizophrenic?
Patricia Crowley, mute yourself.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
How'd you know it was Patricia Crowley?
Yeah.
Because she did not have a little microphone with a red line going through it.
Okay, so we went down, and as usual, my husband and Rebecca's husband went into the garden to barbecue, and Rebecca and I were chatting by the fire. And I'd been thinking about it. I said, let's start a magazine for old women, not to be indelicate. I said, like us, not to be even more indelicate. And it really was in my mind a notion of kind of like a Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney thing. Like, let's start a magazine, just all enthusiasm, no notion of what this would mean. And I'm gobsmacked that it actually happened, because I've said a lot of things with a couple of drinks and it never happened. This actually happened.
And I immediately said, that's such a terrible idea. I'm never going to write for free. Never.
Yes.
Fast forward.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca's, she's had a much more stellar career in magazines than I have had. And it really was an anathema to her, the idea of writing for free.
It really was, I have to say. I was like,
yeah.
and I resisted, watching the internet sort of plow over paid writing opportunities. I just resisted it for years and years, saying, oh, this internet thing, it's not going to last.
Yeah. Well, famous last words.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but somehow I wore her down. We fiddled around and started to try and start our own website, and we weren't that competent technologically.
No, we were
at
not.
all. Luckily, I had a friend named Michelle Anderson, and she helped us design the site. She's no longer with the outfit, but she really gave Dorothy Parker's Ashes its look, which I think is kind of lovely and accessible and I think it's a lovely looking magazine.
Yeah, I mean, many
Yeah.
people have said, you guys could, if you do want to monetize, you could, you could have ads and stuff. And I just thought that it would just ruin the,
The aesthetic.
yeah, it's very important to me that the text be prominent and clear and not have anything, popping around, no dancing bears, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I went on Newsweek the other day to try and read an essay, and it was literally like, you would read one paragraph and then you would have to close window, close window, close window, and it's just not worth it to us. So
Yeah.
even if you knew of somebody who wanted to advertise, no.
Oh, no, 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 no. Is it? No, no, no.
No, we don't want your
Terrible.
money.
I mean, if Jeff Bezos' ex-wife said, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million to run this
And
thing."
do you know what? I actually profiled Mackenzie Bezos. I think I'm like the only journalist in America who ever did, because when she had a book coming out, I flew out to Seattle and spent a few days with her. And I can't tell you the times I've gone through my email to try and find her email address. It's like, how did I get in touch with Mackenzie?
Now she's taking bids to see if if people want money.
Yeah.
So
I
we
want-
don't want money.
no,
What's
no.
money?
Bah,
It's-
bah.
So anyhow, and then we sort of, as the magazine evolved, it was Rebecca's idea to do a theme each month. You were the one who really felt that it would, rather than it just be people sending essays in higgledy-piggledy, that it would give it a definite focus and weight to have a theme, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's an old magazine trick where, with magazines, there always had to be a reason to write about somebody, but that becomes kind of a straitjacket because it's kind of based on news, or somebody has a movie coming out, so they'll do a profile. And at Vogue, we used to do this thing called the shape issue, or the that's all I can remember now is the shape issue. But so that would give us a reason to write about a skinny woman or a heavy woman, or whatever. So it just, and in the same way that when the haiku or sestina or something, like in writing, that it's useful to have parameters, I feel like,
Yeah.
to push against.
Yeah. And we've had, as we've moved forward, where, themes become, I like themes to be really out there. Like and we were talking about this earlier today, one of our best issues was insects. And you wouldn't think that insects would be something that would yield such emotional essays, but it really did.
Yeah,
And
it's
smart, and people really thought about, it wasn't just like an immediate horror reaction. It was like they thought about what an insect meant in their lives. And it was one of our favorite issues.
But it was so surprising the way that people approached it. And I think that's the exciting thing about the magazine for me, is that I'm always shocked, and not shocked, pleasantly surprised at the different ways that writers approach our themes.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday we just dropped water. And it was, everything from a woman who volunteered to bring water to, immigrants in the desert, to a lot of memories of, being at the beach. We did get a lot of beach essays, didn't we, Bex?
We really did.
So we had to say no to a lot of beach essays. But anyway, it was interesting how and polluted water, and somebody sweating because of menopause water. It's just fascinating, all the different ways that people approach the theme.
Yeah. And then and ones that I'm afraid of, like we've got an issue called Husbands coming up, and I'm afraid it's going to be just, because especially if the husband is still alive, is this all going to be just like ode to husband? I mean, this is another.
It'll be fine. Relax.
This is another thing that we have been talking about, and we find that the essays that really move us the most tend to be the ones that are most angry, most pissed off, most negative. I guess it's the old adage that, happy family doesn't really yield much at all. So we don't want to be a sob story magazine, but they definitely are the essays that have the most punch.
Yeah, I have some writers who have said to me, I'm not sure how to crack, they've submitted often, and I haven't we haven't accepted any of them yet. Not because they're bad writers, but we definitely have, I mean, a little bit of a dark, not dark, but conflict, like pieces need conflict. They need, nobody wants to hear about your happiness. What can I say?
Yeah, you need a little grain to rub
Edge.
against.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a little grain to rub against.
The sand that makes the oyster in the pearl.
Yeah, maybe we should do an issue called Happiness and see what we come up with.
Okay, I would try that.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some strange ones coming up. We've got uterus coming up, and I'm like, what the hell is that going to be about?
Now,
But
that
you
was
never
my
know.
idea. No, that was my idea because we kept getting a lot of abortion stories that I thought were kind of important, but I didn't really know where to put them. So I said, let's do a uterus issue. So that's where a lot of those pieces will end up. But then it can't be too many abortion pieces because then, so anyway, if anybody out there has something they want to say about their uterus, your opportunity is coming up.
How about mine was never used? How about that?
Confessions of a barren.
Confessions of a motherless mother.
It's awful the way we can't hear people, Bex. I don't know. Maybe we should.
Well, I do see people laughing. So, I mean,
good.
either that or they're just grimacing in horror.
Oh, these poor women.
We don't know.
Anyway, so yes, so the theme and
yeah.
what else?
So we have plans. We've now started, and this I'm really excited about. It's not up yet, so you can't really look at it, but we've started You Might As Well Live, the Dorothy Parker questionnaire. And we really wanted to sort of take on as much, you know how you love reading by the book in the book review? Who the hell reads the book reviews? I just go to buy the book to see what they're reading, and that's pretty much all I read because most of the reviews in the book review are awful. And at the end of Vanity Fair, the Proust questionnaire. So we thought we would create a questionnaire. So far, Abby Thomas, who's one of our top writers, I mean, she's just an amazing woman. She's answered it, we've answered it, and we're hoping to build each month, ask a couple of writers to answer our questionnaire.
And
So
putting together that questionnaire with Bex was interesting for me because I had to really think, what do I want to know about writers? And what I kept the sort of the core thing I kept coming back to is, why do you write? Why write? Because
Why
I mean,
write?
it is really quite awful. You don't get paid and it's intrusive. It's just like an awful thing. And yet, it's like the thing that makes me happiest in the world. So we sort of drilled down into that question for our
And
writers.
what are you
And
reading?
I see that in the essays. Why are people sending us these wonderful essays? I mean, it's amazing. We're getting hundreds of essays now. And why? Because people want to write. They want to digest. They want to digest the things that are meaningful in their life, and they want other people to read it, and they want to find meaning in their life. And I think that that's what the first person essay really does.
Well, if anybody finds meaning, could you let me know? Because I would really like to have like just 5 minutes of calm where I have a sense of, meaning. But what was I going to say?
I've known you a long time, Bex, and I know you that if you're not writing, then you're not living. You once said to me that if you're not reading a book, you get depressed.
No, if I'm not reading a book, I get depressed. And if I'm reading, I'm always reading 3 books. And right now I'm reading 3 books that are not engaging me. And I feel like I'm in a whirlwind of like words and none of them are capturing me. And it's very depressing, but I also never abandon a book. So I'm like, it's just this horrible thing where each day I'm just like, I sit down and go, just read as much as you can to get through this. So it's done and dusted. But anyhow, that's a different thing. And then we're also hoping, for those that have written for us, is we want to bring out a book of our essays, the best of Dorothy Parker. That's sort of on in our sites, isn't it, Rebecca?
Yes, that's next up.
Yeah.
As soon as we get a new intern.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. We have this wonderful intern named Zoe And she, she's like 18 and she's like, I absolutely love reading these essays from older women. And I'm like, great. I mean, that's exactly what you want.
We have a partnership with the Berkeley writing department at Berkeley. They give us an intern every semester, and that's been amazing. So
yeah, for technological. And it's terrible because when she leaves, she's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get you on TikTok, and I'm gonna get you on Instagram, and I'm gonna get you here, and I'm gonna get you there.
we're like,
We're like,
what?
great. And then she leaves, and we don't do anything. We completely at fault. I mean, I don't know how to go on any of these sites and do any of these things.
Look, tell your sister to mute herself.
Sophie.
So do you think that we should open up to questions?
I'd like to hear what everybody's thinking. It's so weird to have everybody silent.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I want to jump in for the first one. I don't know if you can see me anymore. I seem to have disappeared.
Yeah,
But it's
I can see
Jennifer
you.
from the Power Ridge Library. Okay, so I just have to ask, as you haven't mentioned it, where did you come up with the name Dorothy Parker's Ashes?
Oh yeah, good question.
Oh, okay. So we were going through names, and we were, everything was awful, like, broads on parade, dames thinking. I mean, just everything that sucked. And Dorothy Parker's Ashes, she had left them to the NAACP, and they were in
no. She left her money to the NAACP.
No, and the ashes. That was the whole point. She left her ashes, and they were moving their offices from New York to Washington, and they found her ashes, and they're like,
in a filing cabinet.
What are we supposed to do with these? I mean, these are, her ashes. So there is a group of Dorothy Parker fans who decided to get her interned in, I think it's, what's the big cemetery by the
Woodside in Queens.
Is it Woodside?
Yeah.
By the Jackie Robinson Parkway?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they got her, and so there were many stories in the New York Times and everywhere called Dorothy Parker's Ashes. And I just thought, well, that's just perfect, because I mean, I love her. She was body and smart, and her life was
alcoholic.
Well, alcoholic, and she, actually, and as we've run this magazine, I've done more and more of her reading. She's not particularly that good a writer, especially her short stories, and her novel was awful. But it doesn't matter. She represents something, and we just.
And she was always hustling. I mean, she wrote just constantly, and she struggled with writing. And so, in that sense, I think that she kind of, and we use her now constantly. We refer to her in our introductions, just because it's her life was such a mixture of pathos that she's kind of the perfect patron saint for us.
Yeah. Yeah, we were a little nervous at first that women would think that they have to be caustic or witty or whatever, and not, because Dorothy Parker wasn't particularly emotive, although she could be. But now, actually, our big problem is people being too sentimental, and there is that tendency, especially among writers who are not used to writing, to being quite. Not edgy enough. So that, if anything, we have the opposite problem, which isn't a problem. I mean, believe me, it's a thrill to read everybody's essay. I mean, we're constantly being.
And I did. Somebody said to me the other day, "Who's Dorothy Parker?" I'm like, "Oh no, she's fading from the zeitgeist." So we consider it our duty to keep her spirit alive.
Yeah,
I think it's a brilliant name. Well done.
Dorothy Parker was? Oh my God. Yeah. Oh God.
So good question.
From the chat box, we have a question from Leslie Lee. She wants to know, how do you come up with your themes?
I have on my phone a long list of potential themes. I'm constantly keeping an ear out. Matter of fact, we came up with a water theme because I have a friend here in France. He's actually a handyman, and he loves Dorothy Parker, and he came over to do some handyman work, and he said, "Hey, I think water would be a good theme." And it was. So
and then
you never know.
One thing, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, but I'll just say it again, that sometimes we'll get essays that we really like that don't fit into a category.
Mm.
And so I used to have a little category called potpourri, like Jeopardy. And if I get more, if we get more than like one or two that kind of fit that theme, then I'll think, oh well, we should make this a theme because people are obviously, there's obviously material there.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
how like
you know, like a writer for us, a woman named Daniel Truscott, she submitted something and it wasn't right for, I think it was it for water, but it was right for the uterus thing that's coming up. So, you know, things can move around. So my suggestion is never hesitate if the theme seems a little tangential to what we're doing.
oh, it's
Don't
amazing
hesitate.
what we'll take.
Yeah, it's amazing what we're taking. It might trigger for us an idea for a future theme. That happens quite often, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really feel like with our writers that it's a two-way street. Like they're submitting stuff a lot of time, like this woman we have writing for us, excuse me, named Deanne Stillman. She just submitted 2 essays for the same theme. That's fine. You know, if you've got 2 essays, great. You know, just it's, you know, you never know what's going to work. Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm trying to see more questions. How do you come up with
Oh,
new things?
I think.
Participants, feel free to unmute yourselves and shout out a question.
I have a question.
Where are you?
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, I'm wondering how long you're willing for a piece to go. I know on the website it says about 2,000 words, but I tend to write longer than that.
We've published more, you know, but really more than 2,000 or 3,000. Yeah, no, because
Okay.
an essay is, what do you think, Rebecca? I mean, if it's brilliant, we'll publish an entire book, but if it's,
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say no.
Neither
I would
do
look
I.
at something that's 3,000 to 4. I mean, we, you know, honestly, it's a lot of work for us.
Yeah.
Like, because we do tend to edit. And so if I'm gonna, that's gonna be a heavy lift for me.
Yeah, I understand that, believe
I
me.
mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because I always check the word count first, and if it's like, you know, 2,500 words, I'm like, I'm gonna save that for later. I always, it's, you know, I keep pushing it aside, but you know.
And
then
I
also
hear
think-
and I hear from readers that it's too much for them because I think a lot of people do read like on their phone or
Yeah.
whatever. So I mean, I love long essays. Don't get me wrong. But I think that 2,500 would be kind of the max for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, we've printed stuff that was already published, but at that point.
This is this is a funny story. So we
Yeah.
were doing a New York issue, and I love Vivian Gornick. I just love Odd Woman in the City. I think it's such a brilliant book. And I had a friend who knew her and gave me her email address. And so I emailed her and asked her if we could run an excerpt, and she said yes. And so then I emailed her the excerpt and you know, an excerpt, but I emailed her an excerpt of 4,500 words, but that's not what I wanted to run. I wanted to cut it. And but she never got back to me. Like I used a Google Docs. I don't think she knew how to use it. So I was like, okay, well, we got to run 4,500 words, Bex.
Yeah. And she's a prickly character anyway.
And then when we ran 4,500 words, she was like, that's half the book. I was like, I know, but you never responded to my edits. So anyway.
Yeah.
Luckily, LitHub picked up the excerpt, and so that was a good. Good. We also have a partnership with LitHub, and they usually will choose one of our essays and promote it. So that's a little extra.
Yeah, especially if it has a literary link. So if you want to just pop in a literary link to any essay,
you're more likely to get
chance
chosen.
of being in LitHub. Yeah, no,
but I know exactly what a bump we get because I can see on our analytics, and we get about 200 extra readers after the LitHub. Yeah, which is not that much.
Yeah, it's funny how, you know, the breakdown of Rebecca and I, it's like I've never looked at the analytics once.
I don't think she knows where it is.
I don't even think I know where it is.
I don't
But
think she
then
knows what
I
analytics
usually answer
means.
all, I publish the, I do all the, actually hitting the button that publishes the essays. I respond to all the essays that come in saying we've got it. So we've definitely broken down, and it's happened completely naturally. We have never had a meeting saying you do this, you do that. It just is how our personalities sort of what we were good at. We both love choosing the art. That we do like doing that.
Yeah.
And and Rebecca does, she's definitely the one who says, our numbers are down. I'm like, what can I do about that? Yeah, so it's
I have a
funny.
question.
Yes.
Yes.
Leslie.
Yes, hi, Rebecca and Bex. It's really a pleasure to see you in I guess in person. That's
In
fantastic.
flesh.
Yeah, I'm Leslie Young. I'm out here in Southern California, hence the sun streaming through the window.
Okay.
So,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you both. So my question really is, when you were talking about artwork, where do you find your artists? And how do you, the art is always so, the design, is terrific, at the art, really, you always manage to find art that like fits in the unconscious of the essay. It's really uncanny. So
That's great. That's so great to hear you say that. And thank you for that. A lot of the photography, we do we pay for Squarespace, and they have a library of images that you're allowed to use for free. So that's where a lot of the photography comes from. Then we steal.
We steal a lot.
We
we don't steal
that much.
We don't steal that much, but if we see an image, I just troll. I'm constantly trolling the internet looking for pictures, and usually they're not copyright protected. And then I just screenshot or something.
Yeah, a lot of the museum, I think if the artist has been dead for long enough, then the rights are available.
Yeah, we like dead artists. They're
Dead artists
great.
are good. But for instance, in this month in Water, there's a wonderful piece by the woman about how the baptism.
Oh yeah, that was a great piece. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. Her Sally Reynolds, good. Her husband died, and
didn't die. He killed himself.
Oh, the husband kills himself, and she has a young child, and the family is obviously quite religiously conservative, and they are just hounding her to get this kid baptized, hounding her. And it's just, it's really a great piece.
It's a really good piece. Anyway, so I literally Googled paintings of baptisms, and I just went through a million different, and I came across this painting, which was, I think it's such a good painting. And then the whoever the artist was, she's on Instagram, and so I wrote her, and I said, "Can we use this image?" And I didn't hear from her for 2 or 3 days, and I was like, we can't, because I really do want to get people's permission. Bex is a little more relaxed than that. You do not. You never try. You just steal blatantly.
Somebody tries.
She's never tried once, but I try. And luckily, she came back and literally an hour before we were publishing, and said, "Yes, you can use the image." So
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I would try, but I'm in a different time zone, so that's my.
And the other thing is that I'm an amateur painter, so I actually, if we're really desperate, I will do a painting or a drawing. We've done. Oh yeah,
Rebecca's done a bunch of covers.
Yeah, I never put my name on though, because I don't know, I'm embarrassed. But anyway, so a lot of the paintings are by me.
Yeah, she does a lot of them. They're great. As a matter of fact, when we first started the magazine, we had this idea that Rebecca would do every single cover. It would just be part of our theme. But then, she's got a life. So it got, it became impossible. So, but I think you did the first 3 covers.
Yeah, I did the first couple ones. But...
Yeah. Back in the old days.
Anyway, I do.
I see a hand. There's a hand.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
I just wanted to tell you that you've been so inspiring for me as a writer that you've started your magazine. I'm a former magazine editor, and I've written and edited so many essays over the years. And all of that, as you've been saying, is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so hard just to keep writing when you really feel that you don't have any outlet at all. I mean,
Yeah.
part of writing is having the reader there,
Totally.
the person who appreciates or doesn't appreciate whatever
exactly.
what you're doing. But it's meant a lot to me as a writer. I've been very inspired. Just wanted to let you know.
No, and we're very conscious of that. I mean, we feel like, you know, we get a lot of submissions, and we're pretty you know, we're conscientious. We read everything. I mean, we might not give you a long rejection, but we want you to understand that we've at least read your essay, or, you know, because we can only publish 14 or 15 or 16 a month, and we get however many submissions. And I mean, we're aware of that. We feel it. We feel that energy coming to us, not to sound new agey, but I am in France. Everybody talks about energy in France. It's the weirdest thing, but we do feel that sort of, you know,
And
it's an
also,
honor.
and
It's an
also,
honor, right, Rebecca?
Susan, I think
Yeah.
that, you know, what you're saying is like, I felt like I've been in this industry for so long. I have all these, you know, I've learned so much, and I know how to do things, and I had nowhere to use those skills. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, that was
Such a pleasure.
good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah. And, you know, we, you know, and sometimes
Bex, we have some more questions.
oh, sorry.
Okay. Can we
Which
go to
hand are we
Charlotte?
using?
I recognize Charlotte Wilkins because she wrote a wonderful essay about
Where's
the
Charlotte? Hi, Charlotte. Is that you?
Yeah.
She wrote a wonderful
That's
essay about the experience of recording her essay.
Oh,
And
that's
we really loved that. So thank you, Charlotte. But you have a question?
Oh, you're so welcome. And it's one of the things I wanted to say, because of course I was shocked when you were like, Bex, you wrote and said like,
Oh, Charlotte, you're breaking up a little.
audio, and I was like, am I breaking up?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
you're
great
breaking
great irony is that you're talking about audio.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, Charlotte, we're unfortunately not able to hear you. Maybe you could chat your question in and I could read it aloud.
okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
But you know, while she chats her question in, I can say that because of her essay, we had our intern create a tutorial so that when every issue comes out, those of you who have written for us, you know, I write a letter saying, you know, it's out, thank you, go through your pieces, make sure there are no mistakes, yada, 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 and we'd love you to record. And as Charlotte said, she was absolutely terrified when that happened because she didn't know how to do it. So now we've had our intern create a tutorial, which I'm going to put at the bottom of every letter henceforth. So that there's an example of a writer changing how we do things.
Yeah, and Charlotte's piece ran on a brevity blog, just in case anyone wants to look at it.
Yeah, it's a great piece. Matter of fact, we might want to include that with each letter as well, so it'll inspire people to record.
Yes. I see that Danielle has a question.
I do.
Oh God, where the hell are you? Space?
I'm in
Danielle is on both her phone maybe and her computer, so we're getting an extra lot of feedback.
definitely not.
No? Okay, I thought I saw your name in there twice earlier. Maybe you would like to chat your question in and I can read it aloud.
What's the farthest out?
Danielle, you keep repeating yourself.
Okay, until we get that, I'll just read a question that's in the chat box right now, and it's from Danielle, so maybe this is the question she wanted to ask. Is what's the farthest out theme that you discarded because it was just too zany?
Well, I think let me go to let me go to the videotape, because there are themes that I have written down that Rebecca just said were too far out. I think Flotsam and Jetsam was one that you rejected because you thought that wouldn't yield anything. Well, I remember Flotsam and Jetsam. Flora and Fauna. I don't think you like that one. I don't think you like when I do double-barreled things.
I would like to see a show of hands. How many people here think that Flotsam and Jetsam would be a good theme?
I do, I do.
All right,
You see,
okay,
I'm not
all right.
alone in the universe. I'm
Fine.
not alone in the universe.
Flotsam and Jetsam in May.
Okay, non-humans. I thought that would be a good one. I thought another good one would be the drawer. Like, what's in the drawer? I mean, that could yield all sorts of crazy stuff. Right? That's pretty much Wild World I liked, but Rebecca didn't like that one. And magical thinking, is that too obvious? I think that's too obvious. Forget magical thinking, that's too obvious. So yes, I think Flotsam and Jetsam was my most out there one that we came up with.
And listen, we could be doing this a couple of years, so it could come around.
It could come around. A couple of years. I see a hand. Oh wait, more hand.
Linda?
Yeah,
Did you
I
want to-
know. I just wanted to say that from what you were saying, in a way, when you make it more specific, you broaden what's turned in. If you had what you were talking about, Flotsam and Jetsam, that's a big topic. But
Yeah.
if you said kitchen sink, it's focused, but I think what you would get is a broader interpretation of what the topic is.
I
Exactly.
agree, Linda. That's how I tend to think. I think Flotsam and
That's how
Jetsam.
Rebecca tends to think, and she's right. I mean, what happens is I start with a big theme and we narrow it down. I start with promiscuity, and she'll come down to and then we'll just narrow it down. And you're right, because the narrower the focus, the greater the greater people, the farther the reach is made.
Does anyone mind if I drink wine while this is going on?
Oh, no. Well, it
What do you
really
think I'm
should be a
doing?
martini.
I don't like martinis, otherwise I would.
Just serve us a glass, please.
Here's to all of you.
Another
I mean,
comment
it's
from
nearly
the
1 a.m. here in France, so I'm not exactly the
And all
most
week
sober
I've been
person
saying to
you've ever
Bex,
seen.
you cannot be drunk for the Zoom.
We have another comment from the chat box. This one is from Charlotte Wilkins, who's asking, how can we support and promote you besides donations?
You can
Word
push,
of mouth?
yeah, you can put it on your Facebook page, send it to your friends. Word of mouth for sure.
Yeah.
Although every time I get a new subscriber, I'm like, oh damn, they're pushing us up on the or what's our MailChimp. Every time we go up by 1,000 subscribers, I have to pay more, but it's fine.
That's actually
I'd rather
another
pay more
question
and
from
have
the
more subscribers.
It's
Yeah.
a good problem to have.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
another
just
question from
everybody
the-
I think subscription's the best way because it's free. And it's like it comes to your mailbox. It's like a little fun thing to get every month. I mean, more fun than, I don't know. The
More fun
endless
than Nancy
Citibank.
Pelosi asking for money.
You see, this is why I moved to France entirely to miss this election cycle.
Was there another question? Sorry.
Yeah, how many readers do you have? Is from Patricia Mulcahy. It's great to see the way DPA has developed. How many readers do you have on average? And can you cite any of those analytics you mentioned?
Yeah. We have about 4,500 subscribers. And it's so weird because I've had issues where we had 10,000 readers. And well, actually that was for sex. I think that's why. And then, we can go from that to like the next month will be like 3,000. So it definitely jumps around, and I don't, I'm really not a numbers person. I'm just interested in how these things. So basically I would say around 6,000 views.
I mean, like if Abby Thomas, who I'm sure you all know, publishes a piece, she's got such a huge natural following, we're going to get a bump. We're going to get a bump if somebody like Abby Thomas is publishing a piece. So it's not like we like try and go out and get a pretty famous writer. She also happens to be a good friend of ours, but yeah, it does, you know, it does. If you have a large social media presence and then you publish a piece, you're gonna, you know, that lifts us up. It all lifts up like a boat, right?
And I'm really careful with our MailChimp. Like I will only send out a new issue. Like I'll never send out like just saying, oh, do you feel like donating to us today? Or I don't know. We're very conscious of not, you know, cluttering up the inbox. And so that it's special. Oh, a new Dorothy Parker's Ashes is out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
make sure-
really don't want to clutter up your, matter of fact, yeah, I think maybe one, I'm sorry, I'm scratching, I've got terrible eczema. But I think maybe once a year we'll try and do a little like NPR-ish pledge drive thing, but we haven't gotten it together to pull that off yet.
because we don't like money. We don't want
Oh, we don't like money. No, money doesn't like us. That's a completely different relationship.
We need to do another money issue. We did one early on. That was
Yeah,
anyway.
that was fun. Yeah, but money still doesn't like me, so I
No.
couldn't contribute anymore.
Maybe you're allergic. This is Eli, Rebecca's sister.
Yes.
It could be an autoimmune thing connected to your eczema.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we have a
Yeah.
couple of hands up in the gallery there. I think Susan Schneider, did you have another comment?
Yeah, another question. I'm just wondering about, excuse me, more controversial subjects. I mean, we're living in such a horrible time. There's, you know, so many terrible things going on. And I find that, you know, I'm thinking about these things a lot. I mean, from the election to, you know, Gaza to, you know, whatever else, Ukraine, you know, do you have like rules against, I know you don't have a lot of rules, but
No, we don't have
Well,
any.
I mean,
how do you feel about more politically
charged
ending
Yeah.
stories?
I mean, I think that, you know, we're trying to go for the universal. And so I think we kind of, you know, we're trying to stay away from, you know, the daily news cycle. But we did have a really interesting piece by Leslie Labona, who I think might actually be here. Yes, there she is. Leslie sent us a piece like at the very last minute about the anguish that she felt in her family because her children she's Jewish and her children were supporting the Palestinians, and she talked about how it tore her up. And so that would be a way into a contemporary piece that we could use.
Personal approach.
Yes,
of course.
Yes,
absolutely.
it has to be. Yeah, it can't be a diatribe or a polemic. It doesn't.
No, nothing like that. But from a
Yeah.
personal point of
But
view.
I would say, you know, we don't shy away from controversy. I once had a piece, I can't remember the writer's name, but where she was writing about how her father knew that her stepfather had sexually abused her. And
no.
I got a letter from the family saying, do not publish this piece. We'll
Cease
sue
and
you.
desist,
And I'm like,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
We just published it, you know.
Yeah. And she actually wrote us a couple of months later saying, thank you for standing by me. You know,
Yeah,
this
I
was
mean, that's the good thing about not having any, you know, resources. What are they they can't do anything to
Yeah,
us.
what are they gonna do? Exactly. What are they gonna do? You know, it's yeah, I mean,
We're not afraid of controversy, I think.
we're not afraid of controversy. On the other hand, I mean, I don't know what could be said that hasn't been said about the things that are sort of flaming up right now, unless you have an absolute personal approach to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I think that Corinne O'Shaughnessy's piece about the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, like that was a way into that story that we were able to do because it was first person.
Yeah.
Great.
And that was a great story.
Yeah, I agree. It was really good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tommy, did you have a question?
So I had a really wonderful experience when Bex, I think it was Bex, I don't actually know for sure, but I've credited Bex with what she called a heavy edit.
That's
And
usually
it
me. That's
was-
what I always say, because Rebecca and I fight all the time about that.
And, we like this and we want to do it, and here's your heavy edit. And what was interesting to me was this was the first, it was so, I read every single edit and it was all right on. It was like, okay, that doesn't really need to be here. And I learned this really important thing, which is that when I do write, I write things that sound correct in my voice that I don't recognize. Like I triplet like crazy, the blah and the blah, the blah, the one, the two, and the three.
Yeah, me too. I do that.
I was actually wondering, so it was extremely helpful. I wondered if there are things that you look for or you see commonly that you might want to say something about in your editing that might help some of us who are actually newly putting out more stuff. So this is just totally self-serving.
I'm going to hand this over to Rebecca because she's the better editor of the two of us, but we have found that normally the most common edit we make is taking off the first paragraph. Rebecca?
Yeah. Tommy, was your piece, did you talk about being in like an AA meeting in Boston? Was that you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Is the accidental Cordelia?
Yes. I edited that, yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, okay. So thank you. It was,
yeah, no, and I mean, I remember that piece because I remember thinking, wow, this person is a really good writer, but also thinking that there was a lot of repetition. And so I find that in a lot of pieces, people are saying the same thing over and over. Now they're saying it a little bit differently, and it's, sometimes they're saying it elegantly, but they're still doing it 3 times. And so that has to go. Otherwise the piece will just drag. And so I think I think that would be my biggest note, that even if you're saying it differently, it's still the same thing. And it's hard for people to let that go. I've had some very unpleasant editing experiences, here at DPA, where I've spent a lot of time editing, and then the writer will say, oh, this isn't my piece anymore. I'm pulling it. And I'm like, well, okay, but that happens.
But then of course we've had great editing experiences where we've pulled out a gem.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit clouded and we pull out a gem, and it's thrilling when that happens because we're working in concert with the writer, and it's a lovely experience.
Yeah. So it's always
the last piece that I wrote, God, I can't remember what it was. Rebecca did something like 47 edits on it.
78.
78.
But who's counting?
So I mean,
because Google will tell you exactly how many changes you made.
Right. But she made my piece infinitely better, so I never resist her editing. I never do. I submit completely.
Well, Bex is a very talented writer, so she's fun to work with.
Yeah. Well, and so are you.
All right, Bex, you should get your phone out to write down these topics that are coming in as suggestions.
Okay, I've got it out. What
one is hair.
Oh, we did a hair.
We did hair. And but that was from Charlotte. Charlotte also sent it, or keys.
Keys. Oh, I like that.
Keys, like door key, camera key.
Yeah, okay.
And
I like that.
another one was toupees. I think one of them put in a drawer.
Now, toupees would be too specific. I don't think you get enough material on that. But hair,
and it would be too male centric.
Yeah.
And but Danielle just sent one in that says fingernails.
Ooh.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Danielle also commented that, yes, I feel that the editing there always makes my pieces stronger. Sounds like you have to have kind of a thick skin as a writer to take all the edits, huh?
Yeah.
It depends.
We're very gentle. I mean, we certainly say you can reject this, but then we can reject you. So we're sort of gentle and mean at the same time.
And one from Tommy, she's wondering if you've ever done eyes as a theme.
Ooh.
No, that's a good one, actually. That could work.
Yeah, eyes. That's a really good one.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the program. I just had 2 quick more questions, and I wanted you to tell us, Bex, about the painting behind you.
Oh,
because
this
it's
is done by-
amazing.
This is done by my nephew, Santiago Garmez. He's a really talented painter. He's also a really talented musician. He's a little lost, like every other artist on earth. But if anybody wants to see his work, I can send you examples. He sold quite a few paintings in Los Angeles. My sister, who I can see flitting around in the background, has sold a bunch of his paintings. And we were sort of hoping she could represent him, but it's not.
And also he did the music for right?
For the recordings. So both Sophie's husband and Santiago wrote original music for the recordings.
So remember how we said we were like Judy Garland, and it's also like a family thing. Like,
Yeah,
you dance,
Yeah.
I'll put on the hat.
yeah, yeah. I get to be Mickey Rooney. Not the old perverted Mickey Rooney, the young talented Mickey Rooney.
You don't get to choose.
Damn.
And Rebecca, you mentioned earlier, I believe it was you that interviewed Mackenzie Bezos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's she like?
She was really very sweet, very gentle, very a lovely person. And it was funny because she had a book coming out, so that's why she agreed to do it. It was for Vogue, where we only say positive things. But it was really funny because I asked her, I said, could I interview your husband about you? And she said, okay. So I interviewed Jeff about her. And in the interview, he described her as, I always wanted to marry a woman who could like put a knife in her throat and drop out of a helicopter and swim under the boat and rescue me, And I'm sitting there listening to him describe this woman, and it was nothing like Mackenzie, who was like bookish and sort of shy and sweet. Okay, fast forward 10 years later, and that woman he's with now is totally the woman who would have a knife in her teeth and drop out of the helicopter. So like I kind of called that divorce. I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Okay. I'm glad you told me that, because I was like, how did he go from Mackenzie to
yeah, he
what's
always
her
like
name? She
he was
seems
like
such an anomaly.
I
but-
know, and he was imposing this version of her onto poor Mackenzie, who really would be completely at home in this crowd, because she really likes to write. She spent her childhood, with her head in a book. And who did the other person I interviewed about her was oh my God, Toni Morrison taught her at Princeton, taught her writing at Princeton.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, her books are
This is a total non sequitur.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite writers is this woman named Penelope Fitzgerald. She wrote The Blue Flower and Angels at the Gates Angels. And she taught for many years in England, and she taught Tina Brown.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, I think it's Anna Wintour.
No. Oh.
No, it's Anna Wintour.
No, because
It's Anna Wintour.
No, Anna dropped out of college. She didn't go to college. Anyway.
No, this isn't college. This is like high school.
Oh, okay.
Like young kids.
Wow.
And somebody went when Penelope Fitzgerald became famous at like 60. This is another reason she's my hero. They went to what's her name, Anna Wintour, and she said, "Oh, I don't remember her," because she was just like a dowdy English woman who taught, and that made me hate her completely. An instant presto hato. I hated her.
I don't think we're going to end on that. Is there another question?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Fair enough.
Personal
Okay.
prejudice there.
We'll go ahead and call it an evening. Want to thank Rebecca and Bex again for appearing tonight on Culture Quest. It was so fun to hear you guys banter. I think
Thank
you
you
do great
for having
personalities.
us.
Pick this up. I wanted to let you know that if you would like to share this recording with a friend who wasn't able to join us tonight, I will be on our Pound Ridge Library YouTube channel, and you can access it through poundridgelibrary.org, our website. I just wanted to mention before you leave that our next Culture Quest event will take place on Thursday, April 4th, and will feature poet Jennifer Jean in celebration of National Poetry Month. So once again, thank you both for being here. It's been a wonderful evening, and thank you everyone for joining us. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
night.
And now
Thank
it's
you.
1 a.m, and I get to not go out into the streets of France. Bye.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.